Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming to our panel. I'm Nicole Hendrix. I'm the co-founder of the Concept Art Association with Rachel Meinerding. Hi, and we're just really happy to be here and to talk about this topic that doesn't get discussed a whole lot, which is, of course, the art of balance. How do you balance career and motherhood? Got some amazing artists here that are going to be sharing their experiences with you. And so Gina, I was wondering if you could kick us off. Can you just give us a brief introduction of yourself, your family situation, and your career status?
Hi, my name is Gina. I'm a costume concept artist for TV shows like Titans, Doom Patrol, The Boys, Stargirl, now just Star Trek starting. I am a mother of 3 daughters, 2 teenagers and 1 in her early 20s, and I'm divorced. So I've been doing it by myself for about 10 years now. And that's where I'm at. I think in my career, it's full-time, everyday, full-time work that I'm dealing with and managing teenage daughters.
Can't wait for that.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
It's fun. They can go to the grocery store. They won't, but they can. It's like, go for me.
Pros and cons, right? Yeah. What about you, Griselda? How are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me. I am Griselda Sastrawinata. I'm a visual development artist for feature animation. I've been working for Walt Disney Animation for the past 5.5 years. My husband also works there. We're both full-time over there. My son is 15.5 months old.
Carolina?
That's it.
No, you're fine. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it for me. But if you guys want to know a little bit bio, I was born and raised in Jakarta, Indonesia. I moved here when I was almost 16 years old, 1 week before turning 16 years old. And I actually was going to school to become an accountant. So when I first went to college, I was studying to be an accountant. And I did have an internship at American Express Financial Advisor, where I learned that I do not want to be an accountant. I want to be an artist instead. So I went to Art Center, College of Design. While I was there on my 7th semester, I did have an internship at DreamWorks as a PA intern, which means that it was unpaid, but I had the best experience because I learned how hard it is to be in the production side. And I do learn that PA is so underappreciated and they work so hard. We were the first one that show up at the studio, and we were the first one that left the studio because we have to print everyone's work and we have to prep everyone's stuff. And when I was at Art Center, I was, and then after Art Center, I graduated as valedictorian, and then I worked at DreamWorks for about 10 years. When I was at DreamWorks, I did go back to Art Center to teach under product design. I was teaching Viscom 5, which is photorealistic rendering. And after 13th semester, I decided that I want to reach out more artists, more people, instead of just the 15 students in the class. Then I start writing tips online and I start posting them every Tuesday. And then now me and my husband, we've been doing it for years now. I can't remember how many years now. And so we still do that until now. And now we're both at Disney Animation.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. They're so happy to have you. Carolina, can you tell us about you?
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm so honored to be alongside you guys. My name is Carolina Tejasolowski, and I am an art director for a game company, Sanzaro, which is an Oculus game company. And I've been a concept artist and art director for 15 years now. And I'm a full-time art director, and I have a 6-year-old son who's seen back here. His name is Connor. And yeah, I'm working from home and trying to make it work. And this is my life, my background.
Awesome. How about you, Jisoo?
Hi, my name is Jisoo Kim. I'd actually also quickly like to say that I'm from South Korea and I came here for CalArts graduate program, and then I graduated and started working. Right now, I'm at Cartoon Network, art director on Summer Camp Island for almost a year now, and my son is also almost a year old. I started as he was born, yeah, something like that. So yeah, that's how it is right now. Yes, and I'm also full-time working at the moment.
Awesome. And Charlene?
Hi, thanks for inviting me. I'm super honored as well. This is a very important topic for me. So I'm a senior concept artist at Blizzard on Hearthstone. I have been working at Blizzard for 5 years now. I have been working in the video game industry for 10 years. And so I have 2 kids. I have, so my older one is almost 3 years old, and my younger one is 5 months old. So I came back from maternity leave almost three weeks ago. Right now we are all working from home. And so yeah, so I'm lucky to have a husband who's a freelancer too, so which is very helpful to raise our kids. But so far, yeah, this is our situation.
Awesome. And I have a 4-month-old. He'll be 4 months old tomorrow. So I'm the newest mom on this panel. So I'm learning, and I'm going to suck up all of this wonderful inspiration. And Rachel, what about you? You're muted.
5-year-old. Oh,
You're good. You're good. You're good.
Yes, I have a 5-year-old daughter, and yeah, Nicole and I have newborn sons a week apart. So
We
yeah,
didn't plan that.
no, it wasn't planned. But yeah, so it's been. I'm not an artist. I'm not full time like all the other women on the panel, and I'm trying to learn to not have to justify my situation all the time, because even though because you guys all get paid for what you're doing, like what I've been doing is I always find a hard time saying that I work because I don't get paid for it. It's more of like a passion project, but in reality I'm still trying to juggle being a mom and again working, whatever. So
No air quotes.
I know,
Yeah.
it's hard though, but it's more about like, I'm sure there are a lot of women out there who kind of have their like kind of moms that have this like side hustle, and people kind of don't think of it as a job per se because they're not getting paid for it, or they're not the sole breadwinner of the house, and all of a sudden like it sometimes it becomes a competition about like who really works, who has the proper job, right? And that normally falls to like who gets paid for it.
Well, yeah. Well, and just speaking of industry and work, how long were you guys working in the industry before having kids? Gina?
Yeah, I'll take that one. So I was working for 10 solid years. Like I had gotten to a level of being successful, and I did 10 solid years, and that's when I started. At the end of 10 years, I started my family. And after a year or two of trying to juggle work and having a baby and then 2 babies, it just became really evident that it was going to be impossible for me to mother the way I wanted to and be distracted by work. So I actually took like 10 years off, where I didn't work in the industry for 10 years, because my industry, the movie industry, it's unforgiving when it comes to hours. Like which is what I love about it. We can do like 14, 16-hour days and then have like 2 or 3 weeks off. But that kind of life without all those rules, like having a normal job, normal hours where you can count on what hours you work, what hours you don't. The chaos of it made it really hard for me to be a good parent and to be a good employee. And so I quit. I basically quit. I wasn't sure if I was going to go back. And then when I went back, I was on paper and pencils and a light board. And then when I went back, it was all digital, completely digital. And it was quite a shock. And that we can go later. We'll talk about making the transition once you come out of your mothering phase and being distracted and, if that's what everybody else chooses to do, or chose to do. But it was a tough transition to come back, but completely doable. Women shouldn't be afraid of it. We can do it. We're talented. So.
I am really happy to hear Gina said that, because for me, myself, I was working for over 12 years until when I decided that, okay, now I'm going to have a baby. And then it took us forever because it doesn't happen right away, when you're, but I was always so afraid about, what about my career? What about my career? I just put in 5 years, and then I put in 6 years, and then 7 years, 8 years, 9 years, 10 years. 10 years is a long time to invest on something. And, what if I first of all, I don't know if the workplace would be okay with it, because there's not too many artists in the department that have children. And then the first person that have children actually was Josie Trinidad at Disney. And after Josie, and then it was Fawn, and then Kendall, and then Cleo, and then all the babies start popping like rabbits. And I'm like, well, that made me really feel that, okay, you know what, if the studio are okay with them, and they're being really supportive, and they are still working, and maybe I can do it too. And then until from then on, and then it took us a couple of years to actually get our baby. So it's about it was about like 15 years. I was already working 15 years at that point.
Yeah, Charlene.
So that fear, it speaks to me a lot, because so I'm 33 years old, and so I wanted my first kid around 25. Like I wanted kids in my 20s, but I was so afraid about what would think my employer about being pregnant and probably getting a maternity leave. I was so afraid about their point of view that I was just waiting. And one day when I reached when I was 30 years old, I was like, you know what? Actually, men, they don't have that fear. Like, they don't need to wait when they want kids or that kind of stuff. And so when I realized it was so unfair, I was like, my employer's point of view doesn't matter. That's my body, that's my choice. So I was like, there is always that time clock for us women, like you cannot wait too long neither. So I was like, okay, I'm 30 years old, now I want kids, and my employer is gonna have to adapt. And so that's how I got my 2 kids.
Yeah, I really identify with Gina to a degree, because I actually demoted myself when my son was around 1. I was an art director, and it became very clear to me that, just like Gina said, I wasn't going to be able to be the mom that I wanted to be with all the demands of a full-time studio art director job. So I went back to being just a concept artist, and I got lucky to get an amazing company to hire me, Sansaro. And now I'm an art director again. So, it was kind of a break in a way. But I think, you can always get back to where you were. And I think it's important to realize that this is, it's temporary. And women are amazing. Like, we make all kinds of crazy things work. I think in a way we're a lot more resourceful than men, just by nature. And so I think, it's important to just kind of realize that it's all temporary.
Yes, Jisoo.
Yeah, I'm curious, Gina and Carolina, is the hours still like that now? Because you said like it's 12 to 16 hours all at once, and then several weeks of breaks. And I also know the game industry has a lot of overtime. I think the animation industry right now, we have the union, at least, so it's trying to not let that happen. Because I am an art director right now, and I was on hiatus for about 3 months when my son was first born. So it still worked out. I was replying to emails at home. I had somebody else, and had help from my designers, and it worked out quite okay, and my production was wonderful, and my designers were wonderful, and they helped out a lot. I wonder how it is now. Is it just like before it was like that, or is it still that bad, like the schedule wise?
For me, it's still like that. There we have push. We have push weeks where it just everything comes to a head, and I work for Laura Jean Shannon. We have 5 shows going at the same time, and they are rotating. Like one's shooting, and then one we're creating the concept art for, and then the next one shoots, and then so it's like this constant. But there are weeks where everything is needed all at once, and we do really long days. But because I'm part of a union, we get time and a half after 8 and after 10 double time. So when it does happen, it's okay. It's not good for what's going on at home, but it doesn't. But then in the end, on the flip side, then you have easy days coming, super easy days coming. So it happens for me still because I'm in the entertainment industry.
Yeah, for me, I'm lucky now to have found a studio that's super supportive of family, and work-life balance is amazing. I can't say that all game companies are that way. It's definitely been a mixed bag for me. But right now it's really flexible. I have my son at home. We're doing distance learning, and my studio is very supportive of, sometimes I gotta, ditch a meeting because I have to go pick up packets from school. But everybody has my back, and there's a lot of parents that I work with, and we kind of have each other's backs too. It's kind of tag team, the whole thing.
It makes a huge difference when the team you work with, like my designer has children.
Yes.
So there's like, I get it, but when you work for someone who doesn't, that's when you're afraid to say you're pregnant. Yeah. Because they know they expect you're going to have to go pick up school stuff, and you're going to have a sick child at home, and it's hard to say you're going to have children, because that means potentially you're not going to be as committed to your work anymore.
Yeah, for me, children at Disney, there's so many children at Disney. It was more for between the story and art department. There was not that many, but beyond that, it was more of me being afraid to miss out on projects, because the project is like, oh my God, there's, in feature animation, there's a span of project between 2 to 4 years, and then the timing, it's just like. It's just so scary. And but then I learned that it is what it is. That I learned that quite the hard way, because it was really, really difficult. I got a really bad postpartum depression after I gave birth to my son, because I was just like, it's hard to know that I missed out on certain things about work. And I guess, I know that the hormones, and even though all these ladies that have children from the studio, they're so sweet. They're like, don't worry, you'll be okay. Like the work will still be there and whatnot. But it was just me mentally, it was hard.
Did any of you contemplate just delaying or not having kids at all?
Oh yeah.
I struggled with infertility, so there were many times where we were like, well, what if we just never grow up? What if we just keep traveling forever and working really hard, but I'm obviously very happy that we have our son. And then Carolina, earlier you were talking about on a different call, about the maturity of a company, like making sure that the company matches you and the lifestyle you want. Could you maybe go into that?
Sure, yeah. I've worked for a variety of studios. I mean, as a concept artist, I was jumping around about every 2 years, just because projects would end and then you move on. And definitely, it depends. Startups are notoriously, unsupportive of families in general, just because their hours are crazy and everybody's like constant crunch. And I have found that more mature companies, and when I say mature, I mean, you know, they've been around for a while and they have resources and experience. The leadership is experienced managing their projects and managing workloads and schedules. I found obviously it makes a huge difference. And then the other thing is, you know, diversity of age groups in the workplace is really, really important. And to kind of take a look at if you're picking a company. It definitely now, you know, there's a variety of people in different stages in their lives and different types of families. And it's such a huge difference. We have more women in leadership at the studio that I'm in now. And just, you know, it's so different when you have that level of maturity in the leadership group for a studio.
Yes, Charlene?
Yeah, I agree so much with that. Like, so I have been working in the video game industry for 10 years, and I can see a difference between small studios and bigger studios, especially the old ones. Like in my case, for Blizzard, I was lucky to have a room, you know, to pump my milk because breastfeeding was very important for me. And I feel like my team and even the company itself was very supportive with me. Because there are a lot of dads. So it's mainly like, of course, video game industry, it's mainly men, but it's so helpful, you know, when there are a lot of dads there, because they know they have to be supportive, like you. So it's very helpful for sure.
And speaking of dads, what's co-parenting like? How is your spouse? How do you guys balance that? Charlene, I think you had a really interesting story.
Yeah, so my husband is a freelancer, so he's working, I mean, right now everybody is working from home, including when they are working full-time for studios, but the balance we have found since working from home situation is basically I stay available for my kids in the morning, and he stay available for our kids in the afternoon. And so I try, like, I believe we can find a good balance. Like, I think it's worth it. Yes, it is stressing, you know, to be a parent, to be working in the same time, but it is possible, and it's worth it so much. Like, so in my case, what I found is working is to try to get an exclusive time with your kids. Like, it doesn't matter if it's an hour, 10 minutes, whatever you want, but it needs to be exclusive. Like, no one or nothing can disturb you from being with your kid at that moment. And so in my case, I have 3 exclusive moments with my kids. In the morning, I do a 1 hour walk. And so I also make, there is, when my older son wake up, I have that Lego building, Lego's castle building moment, you know, right when he's waking up. So it's like 10 minutes or something like that. Then later in the morning, I have this 1 hour walk. And then around noon, I start to really work full time and really, really focused on my work. And so the last moment of the day where I'm really with my son, my older one, is story bedtime. So it takes, I don't know, maybe a half hour, you know, to make him sleep. And so that's the moment where I can read stories. And I feel like for now it's working for us.
Curious, Charlene, did you have those types of things in place before COVID? Because obviously before COVID, people were out of the house, they were working at home, they weren't working at home. So you were kind of getting that time away from your kid, but there's a different dynamic, I think, that I'm experiencing being at home, that it's just, it feels 24/7 for me.
Yes.
Like, I'm not getting a break at all, because of course before I would have had, you know, like a babysitter come over, or my daughter would have been in preschool. So I, you know, talking about these kind of like coping techniques of how to balance, like,
it is, I agree.
Yeah.
It was different. It was very different. So what I managed to get is to have flexible hours. So basically, like most of my team is arriving, I mean, before COVID, most of my team was arriving in the open space around between 9 and 10 a.m. and people would stay until 6 p.m. or 7 p.m., something like that. So I asked to my leadership to say, hey, can I arrive super early and leaving at the beginning of the afternoon? So what I was doing was I used to start working at 7 a.m. and finish working at 4 p.m. So like that, I had that huge time at the end of the afternoon in the night with my kid. I also was able to come back at lunch because I'm not living so far from Blizzard. It's like a half hour walking or something like that. So this was great because it, especially for my husband, like it permitted to make a break, But I agree with you, like right now with the COVID situation, I feel like it's harder to be focused for sure, and even in the afternoon when I'm supposed to be focused on my work, if my son asks for some stuff, for sure I cannot ignore him, right? So
I'm curious because obviously like Jisoo and Griselda have younger children that are a lot more, my 5-year-old, as much as she is like, can I have a snack? I want to show, whatever. She's still pretty like, I can leave her to her own devices for a much, much longer period of time. Whereas like Jisoo, Griselda, like your kids, I mean, Jisoo, is your kid walking yet even?
Not yet. He's really trying, but he's really chunky. He's like off the charts. There's like a growth chart, and every time we bring him in, the doctor's like, "Here's my sumo wrestler," and like, it's like, oh, he knows the doctor now too, so he gets really angry when we bring him in.
But I mean, like the concept of you being able to like, it's a different type of interaction that you have with young children versus even a toddler and then a preschooler. Like how we, because it's just, there's not language there yet. They're crying. And I know Griselda mentioned the other day about the concept of like passing your kid back and forth to your husband about, well, my meeting's more important. No, mine's more important. Like, which one has to have the crying baby on it? Like, do you have any kind of like things to sort of say about what you guys are doing with that?
What's tough for me is that the stop and go. Like when you start painting, you start drawing, and you start getting into it, and then Norm will be like, sorry, that's really hard. But it is what it is. On an ideal day when we both are very busy, Norm usually wakes up around 4:30 or 5, and then he would work straight until noon, and then we have our lunch together, and then I would start working from 1 to 6, and then we stop, we have our walk, we have our dinner and whatnot, then I start working again at 10. But that's on a ideal day. It doesn't happen most of the days because the meetings, the check-ins that we have with directors is not up to us. It's up to the director's availability. And when that happens, we just look at, who has to speak. And if the person has to speak, then the other person gets, the baby. He's not a baby anymore, but I just keep referring him as a baby. And it's, sometimes I'm in a meeting and I'm just like, I'm so sorry. But the great thing is that I'm not the only one. I love seeing meetings when I see like so many little hits going on the background, because it just, it just makes me feel good. Like, oh, it's not that I'm not being unprofessional. It's just the situation that we're in.
Right, but COVID has made that more acceptable. Like before COVID, I've turned up to places where I've had to go with my daughter, and you can tell that there's kind of like a
judgment.
It's kind of a slight judgment. So I'm just hoping that after all this is done, that people can just have a different perspective on it and be like, oh wow, being a parent is really hard. Like, let's just kind of, I always think about that video that went viral of that dad. And everyone was just kind of laughing, and that poor mom like having to like scoot the kids back out. She shouldn't have to be doing that.
Well, now,
but so I'm hoping that people can be like, you know what, it's just a kid. Kids break into the parents' rooms. Like, it's not that big of a deal. Like, if we can't get it enough together to just realize that people have lives outside of their jobs, and be like, it's just a kid. Like, just, I don't know. I'm hoping that people can just be a little bit more forgiving when that comes up in the future, that if you have a little head pop up on your Zoom call or whatever it is that you have going, I mean, maybe we won't be doing Zoom calls when we're all back to work. Zoom's just going to go away. But like, just, yeah, it's just a bummer that it's taken a pandemic for people to be okay with that situation now.
But
Yeah.
and actually, oh, sorry.
Oh no, I was going to say that I am really hoping that after this is over, that we can work from home like half of the time and then half of the time at the studio, because there's something really nice about having director check-in at home, where when, you know, because we don't always have to present our stuff, but we have to be in the meeting, and I can just be, you know, keep doodling, and that part is really nice.
I had a 3-hour drive time where it was an hour and a half to work and an hour and a half back. So I'm saving that time. So I get to put that towards work. You know, it's, and with Zoom, and I can share my screen, and the designer can draw right on top of my drawings. She's able to communicate exactly, you know, what she needs to without me being in the room. So I'm hoping too, this changes everything. I mean, I think we're realizing how much we can all do from home. As concept artists, digital, thank you, Wacom. Oh my God, you know, we can all do this from home.
I think actually people are usually working way more because you're there, you can work more, you can work all the time, you can work all day. It's also kind of hard to find that balance where, oh, I can just continue to work all night and say, oh, stop, you don't.
Yeah, it's so,
take care of yourself as well. Yeah,
it's so funny that you said that, because that did happen at the beginning of the pandemic. Our artist manager have to remind the people that have no children to stop working. Because suddenly they just like, what am I gonna do with my time? You know, I'm just gonna keep on working because I can.
People making bread and stuff, and I'm like, you have time to make bread?
Yeah, oh, I know, and people start like, making food from scratch, and
talking about that self-care. That's kind of Jisoo, like being like, yeah, let's stop working. Let me do something for myself. Like, what have you guys been doing? What have you guys been trying to, you know, everyone making sourdough now. Sourdough, I guess the sourdough craze has passed now. I don't know what the latest.
Too hot to bake, so everybody's.
Hot to bake. Yeah, I don't know what the hot topic pandemic thing is now for people that are at home. But like, talking about being a working mum, like, what do you guys all like, Jisoo? What do you do to try and like take a break?
I've started trying to go for runs after he goes to sleep. It's really hard because you just want to lay down with your phone and not do anything, but afterwards you feel much better. In the morning you feel better too, but it's hard to do that. But once I do it, I feel better. And with the podcast, so that's it. And I go outside, he's sleeping, it's good, husband's at home, so I can just be my time and run, listen to a podcast without being interrupted. But it's also kind of crazy. That's the only thing I can do, but it's still a good thing if I can do it when I do it. Yeah.
What about Carolina?
Yeah, I go for drives. I'll go for a drive and listen to music on the way, and then go like somewhere remote where I can get out of the car and like take the scenery in for a moment. And I just started training sessions over Zoom. So yeah, exercise, because I used to run, but with the air the way it's been, you know, we've been indoors for like almost 3 weeks now. So that's what I've been doing. But yeah, I mean, there's not all, I used to, you know, go get a manicure or go for a cup of coffee. Those things are like not happening right now. But I think it's important for everybody to carve out at least, you know, like half hour of your day just to do something that makes you happy, that isn't in service of another human being. And obviously that's really hard for some people, like single parents. Like, what do you do? You're kind of on the clock 24/7. My husband does muscle a lot of the work with our son. We're pretty much a 50-50, so we're really lucky that way. But yeah, you just got to do what you can.
Yeah. Honestly, I cannot imagine Gina doing it with 3 children on your own. You are a superwoman. You are amazing. I don't know you.
I want to petition for more hours in a day. We need more than 24.
Yeah.
I don't know how to petition though, but yeah, it just, there's just, what happens is you end up not sleeping. I averaged 4 hours of sleep for years and lived on it. And in terms of self-care, exercise, because the way we sit for hours and hours and hours, I just ache. So it has to be, I mean, 5 days a week, I used to get up at 5 and do my exercise and then drive to work. And that's more sitting, just so much sitting. So, and then I just got a standing desk where the electric goes up and down. That helps too. But for me, it's exercise. And of course, a spa day helps too, but it's a little more expensive.
Yeah, because as a mom, you can't be sick. You have to be there all the time. So you have to be strong as well. It's also self-care, but it's also eventually caring for your whole family. Because if you're sick, who's going to feed everybody?
Yeah.
It's crazy. Not just yourself, but everybody. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. This is a really weird self-care, but I started following Goldie Hawn on Instagram, and she's really into trampoline fitness.
Oh.
And I got an Amazon little trampoline, and it's like so good for anxiety and stress. And so like I'm just like constantly like jumping on my little trampoline in the corner now. So I highly recommend that for yourself.
She's not crazy.
Climb, so.
Yeah.
Great. But yeah, okay. And so I think, Carolina, you're one of the main ones of us, and Rachel, that has school-age children. So not only are you balancing motherhood and COVID, work from home, how are you also managing being a teacher?
Barely managing it, to be honest with you. It's a little bit of a shit show every day, not gonna lie, because a 5-year-old doesn't really know how to operate a Chromebook. You know, she's getting there, but you know, it's a touch screen as well as a regular laptop. So sometimes if her hand brushes the screen, she's like, "Mom, it's gone away. Where's it gone?" And I'm like, and then you have to come in. You got to hope that you know. There's been a few times when I've had a message from a friend of mine who's been like, "Rachel, you're not muted." So that's always fun. You know, like people, you're like, "Violet, sit down," you know, or whatever it is.
Is she in kindergarten, Rachel?
She's in kindergarten, yeah.
And
he's in there too, yeah. And again, it's, you know, I had to make the decision. Like I could have, you know, I could have delayed her a year, but I'm like, okay, COVID's going to be here for a while. I'm going to be stuck at home for a while. Let's try and put some schedule into our day, because you know, we were just waking up, television was going on, and you know, on a good day I was turning it off at like 2. You know, because I had the baby as well. My husband works full time from home, but you know, it's not, you know, he's COVID has been really great for our family, because finally, you know, he's more available than he's ever been. Like he's able to be, you know, he also works in the film industry, and he's able to do like bath time and bedtime, which he's never been able to do before, except for on the weekends. So that's really been like a silver lining to all of this. But like still during the day, like you know, of course my daughter pops in and out, but it was never a question of like who's going to do the distance learning. It was just kind of like, well, I'm going to do the distance learning because I don't have a proper job. But yeah, you know, every week that goes by, it gets a little bit easier. You know, we're settling into it, and yeah.
I'm nodding at everything you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, I know that
I only have the one, you know, but it's like.
I just want to say right there, Carolina, just stop. Just stop with that. It's only one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You know, it's all hard.
Yeah.
It's really a problem that people be like, well, I only have one kid. I'm like,
Yeah.
no, you have one kid. Like, it's hard. It's just hard. Like, it's not and that's the thing. It's not, motherhood is not a competition. It shouldn't be a competition. It shouldn't be about like, well, I'm a working mum, or I'm a work from home mum, or I'm a stay-at-home mum. Like, everyone is just
100%.
Everyone's just like trying to survive.
Yeah, I agree.
And that's pre-COVID too.
Yes.
Well,
Yeah.
and then post-COVID, it's like the history of motherhood. Everyone is just trying to survive. So everyone just needs to chill out and stop judging every other mum out there. You know, we're all in this together.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I gotta say, there are days where sometimes, you know, like my meeting, like there's some in the morning and then some in the afternoon, then or same with Norm, and then we just like, okay, we decided you have a full day or I have a full day. And I kid you not, the day where Norm has to work his full day at work, he, you know, around like 6, 7 o'clock when we're, you know, when we have our dinner, he is so nice and fresh. And I'm exhausted. And it's the same the day where I just, you know, sit in my computer from like 9 to 6, and then Norm take care of our son. At the end of the day, Norm, you know, he'll be like 4:30, he'll be like knocking on the studio. 5:30, just walking around in front of just so he can see. And having a child, that just one child, it still is the hardest thing that I have ever done in any career.
Oh yeah.
Talking
Absolutely.
about, you know, I've done all-nighters. You know, I went to art center, so we all do all-nighters like 4 or 5 times a week.
Yeah.
It is not the same. The level of sleep deprivation that we endure as a parent, it is just beyond inhumane.
Totally.
Yes. Oh, Charlene?
Yeah, I agree so much with that, but I definitely believe this is a trend too. Like, that's the reason why it's good for companies, you know, to have mothers in their teams, because once you have kids, for some reason, you have a better management of your time. Like, you're able to do 4 hours of work in 2 hours, because you're so much craving for drawing, you know, like time at work, that's the only moment where you can really be drawing. And so I feel like I'm more productive after being a mom than before, for some reason. So I definitely believe that's a bonus, you know, like studios shouldn't be afraid to hire moms.
Yes.
Well,
So you realize you don't have time to go to the bathroom. Like, you realize, oh shit, I need to save all my pee at once so I can go and come back real fast. Like, it's a luxury to go to the bathroom.
I'll be like shaking my legs.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's part of self-care too, right? Like, I remember when my son was 1 and feeding myself was actually so challenging. Just finding time to just like sit down and eat like a meal. And I think it's really hard if you don't have family support, for instance, like, which we didn't. My husband is also in the industry, like a lot of us, I guess. We all have, or do we all have significant? Well, Gina,
Yes,
you're
I think
like
he was. Yeah, he was in the industry. He's
and so from the get-go, we were kind of PMing our life. We have Google Docs and calendars to just give each other breaks. But I think the hardest thing now with COVID is that, like, it's like one added, it's like we were just rehearsing before, and now it's like the full-on experience, like the full marathon is here. In a lot of ways, I'm reminded now of what we were doing when my son was 1, and he had a ton of health problems. And so, like, we had doctor's appointments and treatments and things that we had to do every X number of hours a day. And so I feel like, yeah, you're right. It's just hard in general. But if I'm going to give advice to anybody, like, definitely try to get a schedule going and I think it really improved communication with my husband, because, you know, now we really have to like tell each other like what it is that we need. I mean, there are times when I'm like, dude, I need like a half hour where nobody talks to me. Like, I'm losing my mind right now. And that's like the kind of super real conversation that you don't normally have until you have kids, I feel like. At least we didn't talk
Also
about
the touching, like I'd heard it before, but I didn't know what it felt like to be just touched too much, you know?
Yes. Oh my God, yes.
And also an attempt to balance this panel. Let's talk about art and creativity. How do you feel that motherhood has inspired you in different ways? How do you feel that motherhood has changed your creativity?
Well, I mean, Jisoo,
Right.
your motherhood series, like particularly, I mean, you had some funny comments about it the other night, which I enjoyed.
Well, because all the women I drew on it were slightly sad looking. So somebody was asking, why are they all sad? It's like Mother's Day. They should all be happy with their kids. And I'm like, somebody else posted for me that actually motherhood is not mostly about happiness. It's actually very high highs and very low lows. And I think the lows sometimes hit you harder. And when I was drawing, it's usually trying to take out my frustration or my sadness, and those come out. Like the sadness parts of like, he's crying and you give him everything that you can give him, but you can't, it doesn't work. What do? You just hold him forever, hoping it'll work. And you're sad. You wish you could just take all that, or you could understand the baby, but can't talk yet. So, so there's a lot of sadness, like, and you know, you give it everything and you do everything, and still it never feels enough. There's that guilt is always there, whatever you do. It's also kind of funny because there's a podcast David Chang does for his restaurant and his stuff, and he has a dad podcast because his son is about 2 years old now, and they talk about how, oh, I love those naps when somebody else is taking care of my kid and I can nap so well. And I'm like, even if somebody else is taking care of my kid, I cannot, for the life of me, take a nap. No, it does not work like that for moms. You're always listening, you're always checking in, you're always making sure that they're alive and stuff. And
Oh, not me.
oh.
Maybe
it's the first year.
I don't know what's wrong with me, but yeah, if someone else is taking care of my kid and I know that I don't have to be on call, I'm gonna have a nice, solid nap. But they better not come knock on the door or anything like that. Yeah,
I can get there. Maybe it's just the first year.
No, I mean, I'm sure you probably, yeah, I mean, it's different, you know. I got a few more years behind me, but it's no, definitely not a problem over here. If someone else taking my care of my kid, and you know, and I say that I don't say that lightly. I don't just have like random person like show up at my door. It's like someone that I trust, someone that I know, or like family or whatever. But yeah, no, 100%. And I hope that you get there, Jisoo, and you will. You have to, and that's the thing. I think this, I don't know, it doesn't necessarily have to be exclusive to women and mothers, but sometimes we find ourselves being kind of martyrs. We can do it all. We don't want to let anyone help us. I didn't get a babysitter for my daughter until she was 11 months. And I wish I'd done it sooner. I really wish I had. There's no shame in saying that you need a break, that you need someone else to help you out. Like, it's one of the things I always say to like some of my friends who have, you know, just kind of starting on the motherhood journey. I'm like, just like, if you have the money to do it, or if you have family close by, use that family, like go take a nap where you don't have to think about your kid.
But that's the thing now with COVID, and because he was born right before COVID, he's never seen anybody else other than us, never been in a care anybody else other than us. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard. I mean,
I know, it's crazy. I've never been away from him more than 2 hours, I think.
Yikes.
It's because even when I was working before COVID, he was exclusively breastfeeding and for some reason wouldn't take the bottle. So I would drive home, I lived really close, and breastfeed him and go back to work and come back. Like, there were times when I did that until he took the bottle. It was like that. And in a sense, COVID kind of was it helped me because I was breastfeeding and I didn't have to pump. I was like, oh, that's nice.
Yeah, you save
Um,
so much time.
Yeah.
I'm
And then,
in that situation right now.
yeah.
So.
And then I can do Zoom calls and just mute the video and turn off the video and breastfeed him while taking Zoom calls. That was okay. That saved a lot of time.
I still have anxiety dreams about pumping.
So one thing that's been blowing up in the chat, and we have a very sweet question as well, is how have your partners helped? What can I do to prepare my family so I can be helpful to my spouse so they can have a career and a family? So what can the dads do? I know my husband's also in the industry, and he's actually, we like, he's watching the baby right now. Like we all, like we have like a big whiteboard and we sync up what meetings the baby can't be held on Zoom with, you know, and we go back and forth. Obviously it only works as long as the baby's able to not complain that he's on Zoom, right? But like, what about you? Like, what are some great advice for dads?
Or just partners in general.
Or partners in general,
yes. Whoever's at home with,
yes.
Whoever's at home with you.
The one thing that I told my husband at one point was I was so, especially when my son was younger and I was breastfeeding and I wasn't sleeping at all because he would wake up 3, 4, 5 times a night. And there were times when I couldn't actually verbalize what I needed. I was just this cranky, irrational, like beast, basically. And so there were times when, you know, I couldn't actually say, like, I haven't gone to the bathroom in 5 hours, like I need a break. And my husband isn't the most like intuitive guy. And so I had to say to him, like, there are times when I need you to just take over, like, or just ask me every X amount of hours if I need anything, because I'm actually unable, like I'm incapable of verbalizing what I need right now. And I feel like that's still sometimes the case if I'm under a lot of pressure at work and my son is sick or there's something going on. I feel like I'm an over communicator at work, and then there's not a lot of like that left for my home life. And so for partners, I think it's really important to just over communicate with the mother. The mother's head is not all there.
Yeah, my husband and I are both kind of keeping it in and trying to endure types. So that's really bad because it ends up exploding later. It's really hard, like you're taking care of your own child and saying like, I can't stand him right now, it doesn't come out naturally because it's your kid, you shouldn't be saying that. But yes, you need a break so you can be a better mom soon. Like after that break, you can be a much better mom or parent after that little 5-minute, 10-minute break. So just need to think about that, I think.
Yeah, for
and
us,
communicate, yeah.
Yeah, for us, what was really, 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 really great is having the walks in the afternoon when it's not gross outside. Just like 10-15-minute walk. Sometimes we go to a longer walk. Now it's harder because Alex is walking and he does not want to be strapped anymore and he wants to be carried, but he's too heavy. So we usually go to like really short walks, and it's just really nice because it's just the two of us. It's like, it really kind of reminds me when we go on vacation or road trips that it's just us, there's no one else. And sometimes we talk, sometimes we don't talk, you know, it doesn't matter, but that part really helps. And yeah, Norm, he is really good too in letting me be very bitchy when I'm like really angry, and he knows that when I'm upset, I tell him that I can't talk right now because I don't want to say anything hurtful or say anything bad. And he's just like, okay, I get it. And he just grabbed the baby and he just walks away. That is the best for both of us.
Griselda, have you, do you know about this hip seat? It's like just a belt with a hip attachment so you can carry, yeah.
Oh, I have all kind of contraption. I have that, and I have the mini knees that you put on your.
Oh, I want that.
Yeah, targeted ad, got that.
Oh yeah, I have the one that, you know, the what is it? The strap on the front, strap on the back, strap on the side.
Does the mini me work? I was actually thinking of getting it.
The minimis? Oh yeah.
It's like
yeah.
So do you know what I want most, if I could have it, is the Mandalorian crib.
Yes.
Oh yeah. That's what I was
Just follow
thinking
you
when I was watching
everywhere.
it.
Closest when in danger. I was watching that show and all I was telling my husband was like, somebody has to make this crib. Like, this is a real need.
My husband thought that this was a good idea to have like a slap on, you know, those bracelets where it's like straight, but when you slap it, it becomes like a bracelet, but something like that, but like a diaper. Just throw it at the baby. And it's snapped on. But I was like, no, somebody's gonna slap it on its head and it's gonna choke. So not do that. That's a terrible idea.
Yeah, the diaper. I remember going to a friend's, this is like pre-COVID, going to a friend's house and I see a toddler, someone's putting a diaper on the toddler and the toddler refused to be laid down and he's just standing up. We're at that right now. And he could run away too from me, and, which is, it's really cute to see those little butt run around.
Guys, our time's running to close, but I wanted us to answer one question first, all of us. Maybe Gina, you can kick us off. What is the best piece of advice to give to other working moms who will find themselves in moments of overwhelm?
Not work. Oh, come back to me.
Yeah.
The great piece of advice I got was that there was a ton of time to work and to focus on being a parent. But I don't know if that applies to that question. But that
does. Yeah, we could just have advice in general. Let's just do
okay. That was it. Calmed me down because my ego was like, I have to stay in the game. I have to keep my foot in. People have to, like, all my contacts, I'm gonna lose them. And I started panicking. And she just said, stop, you have a ton of time. There's so much time to work in your life. And I thought, God, that's right. She goes, but there's only this much time that your child's gonna be 1 and 2 and 3. That's done. And then you get to go back to work as long as you want, as much as you want. And I was like, okay. So that calmed me down, changed everything for me.
I love that. Thank you so much, Gina. I need to hear that. I absolutely need to hear that. I am really loving this panel. It's really great to hear so many different input from moms, and it's just great. It's great.
I think, and again, maybe this is like, I don't know if this is advice necessarily, but like, people continue to have children. Like, people are not stopping to have children, right? Like, people are still having babies. Like, we can do it. Like, it can be done. It's gonna be hard. Yes, it's gonna be harder, but it's not impossible. You're gonna have to just make peace with, you know, maybe you're not gonna be able to do everything that you want all the time. But I think that's also part of growing up, you know, becoming less selfish, just in general. I would love to still continue. You know, I have a friend. They don't have children. They're the same age as me, and her Instagram stories is she's here, there, and everywhere all the time. I'm like, oh man, that's so nice. But you know, like, I can still go on vacation. Like, I can still do fun things. And honestly, like, I have made more good kind of friends for life since becoming a mum than I ever had before. And so I do think that there's this weird thing about like women and like mums in general, that, you know, you just get it, you just figure it out, you just get it done. If it's something that you think that you might want to do, just do it. Like, it's not, I mean, it's probably not going to be that bad. I mean, like, there's going to be crap days, of course there are, but for the most part, you figure it out. People are not stopping to have children, and there are still women working in the workplace. And I think it's still there's lots of shifts happening, important shifts happening right now in the world in general. And I think stuff's just going to have to change. I think it's just going to continue to get easier and easier for everybody to have, you know, more and more balance.
Yeah, I have kind of an advice and a request for me. If you're a mother and you work in the industry, be visible. Like some things that I was missing when I became pregnant and right before, I was like, where are the other mothers in the industry? Like I want to connect with them, but no one speak about that. There is kind of a taboo, you know, like if you go on Twitter or the social medias, people are gonna say, oh, I work in that place, or, you know, there are a lot of details sometimes in their description, in their bio, but women, they tend to, like when they are mothers, they don't speak about that. They don't say, hey, by the way, I'm also a mother. And so when I talked about that on Twitter, people were saying that, yeah, because I'm afraid I'm gonna lose a job or an opportunity. And so don't be afraid. Like talk about that, be visible. Please tell people you're working in that studio or whatever you want, and also tell them you're a mother. It's really helpful to connect and to give more visibility, because we are still a minority, but we can make the things change, you know, so be visible.
Yeah.
Really good advice, Charlene. And I think to add to that is also speak up for yourself and like, don't be afraid to make demands. I think, and that goes for all women, not just mothers, but in general, you know, every time I've asked for something in a reasonable way, I've gotten it, but I realize that like men ask for stuff all the time. They ask for raises, they ask for promotions, and women tend to hold back. And so I think just not being afraid of negotiating and speaking up for yourself as a mom and as a woman is something that I wish somebody had told me sooner.
Yeah, just to go on that, was when I was breastfeeding and pumping at work, like it would be, 4-hour breakdowns. So you have to pump in the middle. And in the middle of people like all doing their work and doing our meeting, I have to be like, we have to stop right now because I'm bursting. And people were really great about it. Our show is wonderful. And yeah, I really need to speak up and say that so everybody else knows and it's more visible. It's really good. And Gina, your advice is really good to know, because right now, I think first-time mothers, it's so much, they need you to survive. So it feels like, when am I ever going to get any time back? But you're right, like every moment, he's changing every day, and I should cherish that.
And I heard so many times, oh, it's fleeting, it's fleeting. And I thought, no, it's not. This is forever. Like when they're little, it feels like forever, but it's true. It's like, goes like that.
Yeah.
I hate that I'm saying that. I'm so sorry.
No, it's good.
But then you said it to me and it annoyed me. But
it's nothing worse when you're like complaining to some, a grandma or whatever, and then, oh, they're only little ones, and I'm like, you're not in it right now. It's really fucking hard. Like, I'm tired. Like, stop. Like, you don't even remember what it was like. It was like 30 years ago. Like, when did you have babies? Like, you don't know. How am I supposed to like have time on my phone while also watching after my baby? Like, you didn't have phones. Like, you didn't have the balance that we're trying to have right now.
Yeah. And I learned that it's okay, even if you make mistakes, because the biggest mistake that I have, not the biggest mistake, one of the things is that I was so mopey during my maternity leave. I was like, I'm only gonna have my baby for 6 months, so I'm going to hold him every time he goes to sleep. Guess what? I went home now and I have to hold him every time he goes to sleep, which is, but I'm just laughing at it now, because I will never look back and regret not holding him enough.
Yeah.
And I can see how it's gonna go by so quickly. I just cannot believe we're gonna be working from home for like almost 6 months now. Like, it's pretty crazy, and I don't think it's gonna the pandemic's gonna stop anytime soon.
Mm.
Yeah.
I was trying to think if I had any advice, and because I'm just in this survival mode, I'm like, oh, I can tell you what apps we're using to track all of his movements. That's not advice. I didn't know his armpits were off-centered. And so like the little baby folds, like his armpit wasn't actually the center fold. So I was cleaning the wrong fold. And then I discovered his actual armpit and it was a little irritated. And I had a full-on panic attack, like called Rachel crying, like felt like I was just completely failing. And I guess it's just, I'm just so afraid to fuck up, you know? And I think it's just, my advice, just be kind. Like I'm trying to practice kindness to myself and it's not possible to be perfect at anything at all. So just, you're going to miss an armpit every once in a while, I guess. Yeah. But yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Practicing kindness, it was something that I really have to learn like after I gave birth, because people tell me that, oh, you know, giving birth is not, you know, it's a beautiful moment, but it's messy and, you know, it's horrifying at the same time. But no one really talks about the 4th semester, you know, what happened after. Because when you're pregnant, you're so cute, right? You're so plump, you know, everything's tight. And then you gave birth and your stomach just like flabby and you're not cute anymore. And then the hormones rush in and all that thing. And then sometimes, you know, you're swollen. And really practicing kindness, it really just, I had to do it, you know, and it was really great because then, you know, I start noticing things like, okay, brushing my teeth, that is kindness. That is being kind. Putting makeup on myself, that is being kind for me. Putting my clothes on, that is being kind. Like I joke around with this lady the other days that I put on my makeup and I get ready every day, but I don't always shower every day because we have my priorities. What would make you look, you know, feel better, and you just do it.
That's always the funny thing that I always joke about, like these like hard choices they make. I'm like, do I shower, have lunch, go to the bathroom? Like it's like basic needs at this point. You're like, I mean, and so I love that, like, that's awesome that you prioritize like makeup and clothes. You know, I mean, like I'm mostly like sleeping naked right now because I'm still breastfeeding, and I get horrible engorgement, so I just like wake up in like a puddle of milk, and you know, so I have to just like get up and remember to put clothes on. I'm like, oh, they clean, okay, that's cool. I wear, you know, but if I added that step in of getting like actual dressed and actual showered, like maybe I wouldn't get to have breakfast. So you have to, it's like, you're like, which one's it going to be today? Do I get properly dressed or do I eat breakfast at a normal time? But yeah. I mean, I could talk about this forever and ever and ever.
I would love to talk about this forever and ever and ever. I know that we talked about podcasts. I do want to hear more from moms. Like I am always wanting to know how other moms are doing it. I really don't understand. I don't even know how I'm doing this. And it's really comforting to hear experienced moms saying that it's okay. It's really calming me down.
Yeah. And I don't know if you guys have been following the chat, but there was a massive demand for a Discord channel. So there is an official one, and we will be grabbing everybody's Discord handles to add it. But yeah, so it's, I think that we definitely struck a nerve. There isn't a lot of people talking about this stuff, and it's cathartic. You know, it's really. Yeah,
I think Charlene's point is really key, is visibility.
Yes.
And that goes for any underrepresented groups, right? Visibility is key. As long as people see other people like them in those situations, I think it could be like super empowering. But yeah, we've overrun a little bit, but
well, thank you ladies so much for hanging out with us. This was wonderful. I love your faces. I love talking to you, and just, I guess, have a lovely Sunday and rest of Lightbox Expo.
And if anyone missed the beginning of the talk, we'll be uploading the talk to our YouTube channel, Concept Art Association. So if you missed the beginning.
All right. Bye everyone.
All right, bye.
Bye. Bye.